Hello and welcome to this live stream of the recording of the Learn English Vocabulary podcast. My name's Jack and I'm doing this to try to reach a wider audience. I create podcasts for the Learn English Vocabulary podcast and the website, and I'm sharing this recording as a way to reach a wider audience. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring up the script alongside me in just a minute, and I will just record it, and I'll read the script and record it. So if you have any questions about the vocabulary that I use along the way, or any other questions, then please do feel free to put them in the comments. I can see the comments here. I will try to keep an eye on them. So if there is anything, if you do have any questions, then please feel free to take a look. Let me just check. Can I hear myself okay? If there is anything. Yep, okay. That audio sounds fine. My head's a bit shiny today, but I'm sorry about that. Okay. Right. So let me pull up the script so you can see it. There we go. So you can listen to this recording and read along at the same time, and later when I finish this I will edit the recording a little bit, clean up my mistakes, and I'll be sharing it on my normal podcast. So you can find the Learn English Vocabulary podcast on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify or on Stitcher or any of the normal podcast platforms. Any podcast aggregator that you use, you should be able to find the Learn English Vocabulary podcast. So as I say, this podcast is going to be a recording of a song that was recommended by a listener called Marco. I'm going to mention this in the podcast, and he's a listener from Mexico, and I know him on another podcast I work on. I'm just going to start recording now. Hello, testing 1 2 3. Yep, good signal. He's a listener on another podcast, so I'll do this though in two parts because it's a long song. It's got a lot of lyrics. This is going to be part 1, and I'll do part 2 tomorrow. Okay, so without any more messing around, hopefully I can get through this script without too many mistakes. I will wave my arms around a little bit when I'm doing this to try to keep the enthusiasm in my voice, and I may look like a crazy person, but that's okay. Hello and welcome to Learn English Vocabulary. My name is Jack, and I'm making this podcast for you to learn or revise English vocabulary. You can find a transcript of this podcast on learnenglishvocabulary.co.uk. There's a page for this podcast with the transcript, an activity, and a task for you to do in the comments section. Today, I'm going to look at a song following a request from a listener that I've known for a long time on another podcast. This is for Marco from Mexico, who's a football fan and also a fan of Irish folk music, or at least a fan of one tune, because he's asked me to make a podcast about a song called The Rocky Road to Dublin. The words to this song were written in the 19th century by an Irish poet called D.K. Gavin for an English music hall performer called Harry Clifton. From 1850 till the First World War, in England, singers, dancers and entertainers performed in special theatres called music halls. These were different from theatres because the audience would eat, drink and smoke while watching the entertainment and the performances. And the performances would feature popular songs and comedy. The song has been performed by many different bands and performers. The version that Marco has shared is by a group called the High Kings, and I'll embed a video of the group performing the song on the podcast page on learnenglishvocabulary.co.uk. The song tells the story of a brave young Irishman travelling from his home in Tuam, a small town in Galway in Ireland, to Dublin and then to Liverpool. The song is dense. There are a lot of lyrics. There are 5 verses, so I'm going to split this podcast into 2 parts. I'll publish part 2 tomorrow because listening to me talking about this song for 30 minutes would be too much for anyone. The song starts in the merry month of June. I wasn't sure why we talk about the merry month of June. Apparently May is normally the merry month because of a traditional folk festival. Merry just means happy, though it does often mean slightly drunk, and there are other references to alcohol in the song, so that might be deliberate. In the merry month of June, from me home I started, left the girls of Tuam, nearly broken-hearted. I left the girls of Tuam, nearly broken-hearted. Broken-hearted means to be overwhelmed by sadness and grief, usually because the person you love has died. Usually because the person you love has left or died. The young man that this song is about claims that the girls, plural, all of them, of Tuam, are broken-hearted because he's left. Saluted father dear, kissed me darling mother, drank a pint of beer, me grief and tears to smother. To salute means to raise your hand to your head like soldiers do when they meet other soldiers. He saluted his father and kissed his darling mother. If someone is your darling, then you love them very much. They are very dear to you. This is a common pet name that people use with their partner. It can be used for men or women. I sometimes call my wife darling. A pint of beer is a quantity of beer that's sold in pubs. A pint is 568 millilitres, and you can order a pint or a half pint. Normally, men choose to drink pints. We use pints for milk as well, though in supermarkets milk is often sold in litres these days. In the song, he drank a pint of beer to smother his grief and tears. This means he wanted to hide how sad he was to leave his hometown. To smother something means to cover it so that no air can get to it. You can smother a fire with a fire blanket. This stops the air from getting to the fire, so it puts the fire out. You can smother a person by putting a pillow or cushion over their face. This is a way of killing someone. Normally, this verb is used in a figurative way to say that someone is too involved with someone else and doesn't give them space to grow or develop. Overprotective parents might be accused of smothering their children. Then, off to reap the corn, leave where I was born. To reap is normally used to talk about collecting the crops that a farmer grows. The farmer reaps the corn that he plants and looks after when it's fully... The farmer reaps the corn and plants... The farmer reaps the corn that he plants and looks after it. Wow, it's taking me 4 goes for this. The farmer reaps the corn that he plants and looks after when it's fully grown. In the song, it means to go to collect money. Cut a stout blackthorn to banish ghosts and goblins. Okay, this is a bit tricky. Stout means thick and strong. Blackthorn is a type of tree that has really hard knots. That is where the branches join the trunk. Sticks with a hard knot at the end were often chosen to be used as weapons and walking sticks. These sticks were called shillelaghs in Ireland, though I might be pronouncing that incorrectly. The hero of the song cut a shillelagh to banish ghosts and goblins. To banish someone means to send them away as a punishment. We use the word ban now more frequently to say that someone's been told to leave and never return to a place, perhaps a pub or a restaurant, because of their bad behaviour. Ghosts and goblins are literally the spirits of the dead and small monsters. But I think that in the song, the hero is singing about criminals and baddies that attack travellers. Cut a stout blackthorn to banish ghosts and goblins, a brand new pair of brogues rattling over the bogs. Brogues are leather shoes. Rattling over the bogs. About a sixth of Ireland is covered by bogs, which are wetlands, which are covered in soggy plants, and peat, which is made of dead plants. It's a bit like a swamp, but swamps have trees. Bogs only have small plants. A brand new pair of brogues rattling over the bogs, frightening all the dogs on the rocky road to Dublin. Now comes the chorus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hunt the hare and turn her down the rocky road, and all the way to Dublin, whack for lol the rah. A hare is an animal like a tall rabbit. They're not very common. I always get very excited if I ever see a hare. You see rabbits all the time, and they are cute, but hares are not easy to find. There is an Irish jig, which is a traditional type of dance called Hunt the Hare. So I think that our hero is dancing down the road on the way to Dublin. Whack for lol lara. I don't know what this means. I have looked it up online, and people suggest that it doesn't mean anything. It's just an exclamation of joy, like yippee or whoopity-doo. In the second verse, our hero has travelled as far as the town of Mullingar, which is over halfway to Dublin. I apologise if I'm mispronouncing this town name. I have never been to Ireland, and I know that sometimes town names are not pronounced how they look. I live in Ludlow, and down the road there's a town called Leinster, which is written Leominster. So I realise that sometimes there is a mismatch in the way that the towns are pronounced and written. I'm doing my best here. I hope that Mullingar is close enough. In the second verse, our hero has travelled as far as the town of Mullingar, which is over halfway to Dublin. In Mullingar that night I rested, limbs so weary. Started by daylight, me spirits bright and airy. Limbs are literally your arms and legs. Weary means really tired due to hard work. It's a bit dramatic or poetic. I don't think I've ever said, I feel weary. It's used more in descriptive writing. Started by daylight, that means in the day when the sun had risen. Me spirits, or my spirits, are my general sense of well-being. Most commonly, we say that someone is in good spirits. Our hero had bright and airy spirits. These are not common collocations, but I think the meaning is clear. If you're feeling bright and airy, you're feeling alert and positive. Took a drop of the pure to keep me heart from sinking. That's the paddy's cure whenever he's on drinking. A drop of the pure means a small glass of whiskey. So our hero had a small glass of whiskey to keep his heart from sinking. To sink means to go down, usually in water. The Titanic crashed into an iceberg and sank. If your heart sinks, it means your spirits or attitudes changes from happy and positive to sad and negative. We use this to talk about a negative reaction to bad news. So you could say, when John read the news, his heart sank. Or perhaps when a child is really excited about their birthday because they think they're getting a skateboard and then they open the present and it's Lego. Their heart might sink. When he opened the present, his heart sank. That's the paddy's cure whenever he's on drinking. The word paddy derives from the name Patrick. Saint Patrick is the patron saint of Ireland, and the term paddy has been used as a slur or negative phrase to describe the Irish. However, the phrase is also used quite proudly by Irish people to refer to themselves. So this is a slightly complicated word in that it can mean proud Irish person when spoken by an Irish person, but should probably be avoided by non-Irish. If you drink too much, you'll suffer from a bad headache, a hangover in the morning. One way to make a hangover less painful is to drink some alcohol. This is often called hair of the dog. I have no idea why though, and may look it up for another podcast. Our hero describes drinking a small glass of whiskey as the Irish cure to a hangover. If you're reading the transcript for this podcast, you might have noticed that the word whiskey is spelt Whiskey. Whiskey is from Ireland, and whiskey, Whisky, is from Scotland. In the USA, their local whiskey is spelt the Irish way, but in Canada, Japan and India, it's spelt the Scottish way. To see the lassies smile, laughing all the while, at me curious style, 'twould set your heart a-bubbling. The lasses means the women. I think it comes from Scots. I would associate it more with Scotland than Ireland, but it may be common in Ireland too. As our hero travelled through Ireland, he came across women who would smile and laugh at his curious style. Curious normally describes someone who wants to know more about something, so if you're nosy and like to know all about everything around you, you could be described as curious. The word curious can also mean strange and intriguing. It means strange but in an interesting way. The way that our hero rattles and dances along is interesting and intriguing to the people, the ladies, that see him. And if you saw the way they smiled and laughed, it would set your heart a-bubbling. I think that this just means it would excite you. I've not heard the phrase heart bubbling before, but it sounds like an alternative to butterflies in your stomach, the feeling you get in your stomach and chest when something exciting is about to happen. These ladies that our hero came across didn't just smile and laugh, and asked if I was hired, wages I required, till I was nearly tired of the rocky road to Dublin. The ladies asked our hero if he was looking for work. Wages means the money you're paid for the time you spend working. If you get paid the same amount every month, that's a salary. But if you're paid for the time you work, the days or hours you work, and the amount can change each week, then you're paid wages. And we have the chorus again before our story continues. Now, our hero has arrived in Dublin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hunt the hare and turn her down the rocky road, and all the way to Dublin, whack foll the ra. And that's where we're going to leave our hero for now. I will return to finish this song in the next C1 podcast. Although I've only looked at the vocabulary from the first 2 verses, I recommend you listen to the High Kings version of this song and try to follow the lyrics I've covered so far. I hope you have enjoyed this podcast. I do love reading your comments, so please do leave me a comment on the site or a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. I love to hear from you and any comments or suggestions you have. Thank you also to those of you that have bought me a coffee. I really appreciate it. If there are any topics or songs or scenes from a film that you like, that you would like me to talk about, or anything else you'd like to hear, I would be delighted to make a podcast for you. So please visit Learn English Vocabulary and say hello. Thanks for listening. And thank you for watching. There's just been one person watching, and it might just be me, actually. So thank me. No, if there is someone watching, hello. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this. I will be back tomorrow with part 2, the last 3 verses of The Rocky Road to Dublin. and you can find out what happens to our hero when he gets to Dublin. Then he gets on the boat, goes over to Liverpool, and gets into all kinds of adventures. Well, it's only 3 more verses, so it can't be too many. Anyhow, yes, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you check out the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of the podcast platforms, and you can have a look at the website learnenglishvocabulary.co.uk to find the transcript to this podcast, and lots of others. So thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.